In this video, we're going to show you why special teams matter and how each phase of special teams impacts the game. So before we get started, we have to talk about field position, how every yard is not treated equally. And if you're someone who's a numbers nerd and you really want to get down this analytical stuff, look up expected points and expected points added. That will help you get a better visual for what we're talking about. But for the sake of this video, we're going to work at a high level and just use this chart right here. Now, this chart is going to show you rough estimates of the percentages that the offense has to score points at any given time. And it all is based on your starting field position of where you get the ball. Again, this is all based on special teams and how good or bad your special teams is. Now, obviously, these percentages will change if you have a really good quarterback or the #1 defense, but these are all rough estimates about how the team is going to score a touchdown or score points based on where they are and where their starting field position is. The first special team that we're going to look at is kickoff. And you may not think kickoff is a big deal. Most of the time, the ball just goes out of the end zone anyways. And why do teams do that? First off, if you kick the ball out of the end zone, as opposed to playing it, you're just giving the ball to the team in the NFL at the 30-yard line. Now, if you're watching from a college or high school perspective, again, you're trying to pin them as far back as possible because their chances of score points go down based off every 5 to 10 yards that they are moved back. So you may be asking yourself, why doesn't the team just onside kick every time? And of course, the high risk, high reward of you may get the football back, but also you may give up field position. And if you go back and reference our chart, roughly about 20% chance to score points. But if you move it up another 10 yards, it moves up to about 40% chance to score points. Now, the reason why that jumps up so high is because teams are now in 4-down territory, meaning, of course, that instead of thinking about punting it and pinning them into their own zone, they may think about going forward and extending the drive on that 4th down. This is most common you see at the high school level, where teams will just go and will just take the 4th down and sacrifice that field position, hoping to make sure that their offense can do the drive. Now, this is why it's so important for the kickoff team, where if they don't kick the ball out of the end zone, they have to get it inside at least the 5-yard line. That way they can give their chance for their kickoff team to get down the field and tackle them within the 25-yard line, right? Because you got to think about, if they kick it out of the end zone, the ball comes out to the 30. Well, how can I get them behind the 30? And that's what a lot of teams try to do, is they'll either try to pin it in this corner or pin it in this corner and force the kickoff team to get down here, and then try to pin everything again in that corner and try to reduce the 30 yards. So the kickoff goals are, we're trying to make sure that they don't return it past the 30, because you're losing field position, right? Even if they return it all the way back and they get it to the 35, again, it's still 5 more yards of field position that you gave up that the offense doesn't need to travel, obviously, to score points. So this is why it's so important, and why you see kickoff teams just blast out of the end zone and say, hey, we're just going to start at the 30. It is what it is. But I think as we move forward, we'll see a lot more kickoff teams try to get creative to try to get them behind the 15 or even behind the 20-yard line here, to make sure that the offense has to drive 80 yards just to score a touchdown, which is very hard to do. Now, let's flip this thing vertical, right? Let's go on kick return. So you may be asking yourself, why doesn't the returner just catch the football and try to run it out every time? And it's mainly because these guys that are running down the field, especially at the NFL level, all run 4.3s, 4.4, 4.5s. So the closing speed's a lot faster than you may see at college or high school level. So this player catching the ball in the end zone and then having to run out, like we said, instead of taking a knee or letting it go out of the end zone and get it at the 30-yard line, now they have to run. If, let's say, they catch in the middle of the end zone, they're going to have to run 35 yards just to get to the 30-yard line, which is very hard to do. Even with the new NFL setup where everyone's 10 yards away from each other, I know we don't have it drawn up here, but it's very hard to do with those guys running down the field and closing that space and closing that gap. So for them to do it, you really got to make sure that you get to that 30-yard line point. If not, you're sacrificing field position. And a lot of times when you see guys take it out, you may be pulling your hair out saying, why are you taking it out? And you see it all the time. They get tackled at the 10, tackled at the 15. And now you just sacrifice 10 yards of field position, which adds up throughout the game. We're going to talk about hidden yardage in a little bit. All that hidden yardage adds up to points, okay? And you may not see it as a fan or someone watching the game, but this is why special teams matter so much, is because we have to get the ball to our offense, to where if they get the ball, again, let's say we get it to the 30, they get 1 first down, we're at the 40 now. You see our percentages of chances of scoring go way up as we're getting to this point. And then another first down puts us even in better position. So think first downs, not so much points, but that's what the field position aspect comes in, is how can we take and look at this field 10 yards at a chunk as we're going through. Now, if you're watching this and you coach high school or youth, or you're kid plays high school or youth, I always say for my guys, like the starting point I want to get to is the 40-yard line. Because if we can return, because high school and youth kickers aren't necessarily great. So if you can get the ball to the 40-yard line here, like that puts us in automatic 4-down territory. So any return that we have or any scheme that we try to draw up, it's like, how can we get to that 40-yard line? And that's what we use as a landmark. So if we can get to the 40 and then get one first down, we're automatically in 4-down territory, and we're trying to put them as much pressure as we can on the defense. So again, it changes from level to level, but ultimately you want to try to get the ball closest to midfield. That way you can put yourself in a 4-down territory. Next, we're going to talk about punt and punt return. And before we talk about that, we're going to talk about hidden yardage. Hidden yardage was popularized by Bill Parcells, and we're doing an entire video on hidden yardage, so I don't want to go too much into detail because there's a lot, but I want to give you just a high-level overview so you understand punt and punt return a little bit better. So let's say our punter, and we'll flip this around vertically here. Our punter, let's say we have punter 1 who averages 40 yards per punt, and we have punter 2 who averages 60 yards per punt. So it's a 20-yard difference, all right? And they each kick the ball 3 times in the game. So obviously 40 times 3, 120, 60 times 3 is 180. So we look at that 60-yard difference between those two punters, and the hidden yardage theory states that every 100 yards should equal 6 points, right? Which makes sense because you travel the entire field equals 6 points. Well, if I can push the opponents back 60 more yards, that's 60 more yards that they have to travel to score a touchdown. So why do good punters matter? For that 60-yard reason. If I can push them back and make them travel, remember we looked at that chart before, it said 3% chance inside the 10 for them to score. We can flip the field on them and make them travel the entire field. So this is why punting matters. This is why if your punter, he goes to kick it and shanks it off his foot and it goes that way, and you only gain a net of 10 yards, not good. And the chances to score obviously are way higher. And again, I know it's obvious throughout this video, we keep talking about it, but this is why you don't want to go for it every time on 4th down because of the percentages and to make sure you pin the other team back. I know there was a study that came out that said, hey, you should go for it every 4th down. I think at the NFL level, it's very tough to do so just because how talented the offenses are and how talented these punters are. Let's flip the field and pin them, right? On average, these punters are punting anywhere from 50 to 60 yards. Well, if we can flip the field 50 to 60 yards and they don't return it, or our return team is able to smother this returner as he's running down to it and they catch the ball at the 15, he doesn't get a return, that's huge for us. So you see how much a good punter you can weaponize by flipping the field position on them and then lowering their chances to score and make them drive the field. All right, now let's flip the field and talk about punt return, because I think punt return is huge. And I think at the lower levels, youth and high school, punt return is just a way to breathe on 4th down and say, all right, they kicked it. Okay, get away from the football and we're good. And I think it really hurts you, especially at the NFL level. It really does hurt you. So, and this is probably how we'll best demonstrate this. And this also plays into hidden yardage. All right. So let's say the punter does punt the football and it goes to for the sake of argument, we'll say 20-yard line. So I'll move him up to the 20. Now he catches it there. We start the drive at the 20-yard line. We look at our chart. We know that the percentages of what it takes for us to score. Now, let's say he doesn't catch it. Let's say he's afraid to catch it. His coach is yelling, get away from it. And he moves away and that ball rolls all the way down to the 1-yard line. It gets all the way down here. We just lost 19, close to 20 yards of field position, right? So again, we talk about 100 yards adding up to 6 points. We just gave them a free 20 yards. We gave them a free 2 first downs that we just took away from ourselves because we didn't catch the football. So it's so important that once that ball leaves the foot of that punter, that this returner has to get under it and has to fair catch it. Even if he's getting swarmed by a bunch of players, he can't just let this thing roll. And a lot of times you see it in the NFL where this ball will hit on the 25, 30-yard line and will roll all the way to the 1. That's hidden yardage. As a punt return team, we're trying to steal at least 2 to 3 first downs, meaning if I can catch the ball in the 20, can I get to the 30 or can I get to the 40 to try to steal 2 first downs to put myself in better field position to score a touchdown? And again, we always keep referencing that chart. The percentages matter about where you catch the football and the return that you do. So that's why you see these punt return teams will double the gunners, the players on the outside here that are getting down here first. You'll see double teams happen on them. And you'll see different schemes to try to get this player as many yards as he can to try to steal a couple first downs. And this is why, again, punt return, in my opinion, is one of the most important special teams plays, because if you just let the ball roll, you are hurting your team drastically by not catching that football. And the last thing we want to talk about is just the field goal team. And if you try to go for points with a deep field goal and you don't get it, you're sacrificing major field position. So there's a lot of NFL kickers that can hit 60-yard field goals, right? But you may say to yourself, like, why is a team punting it? Why aren't they kicking the field goal and trying to get points? And the risk reward is if you make it, you get 3 points. But if you miss it, you're giving the football up right around the 45-yard line. And again, referencing the chart, you're giving the opposition chance to score points. And a lot of coaches will say, hey, if our defense is playing well, we're just going to pin them inside the 10-yard line, make them drive the field, and then we'll get in better field position. So you see this game, it's a very tug of war type game where, this team punts the football and they're down at the 10. Okay, they get 2 first downs and then they're here and then they punt it to here. Then they get 2 first downs and then they punt it out to here. And it's a game of push and pull. Obviously at the younger levels, it's probably a bigger game of push and pull, but at the NFL level, this is why special teams is so important, of this tug of war of who's going to give up field position, who's going to be smart about their field position and not try to gamble and take chances unless you really have to. But this is why good kickers, good punters, good returners are so valuable in the NFL, because you can flip field position and steal first downs this way. So if you enjoyed learning about special teams, again, make sure you subscribe. We have a hidden yardage video that's going to be coming out soon. If you're watching this weeks or months in advance, it's probably already out, so be sure to go check that out. If you want to learn more football, check out the Ultimate Football Guide that we have in the description below, and then be sure to watch this video right here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.